respond to someone who rejects Christianity because they have deceased loved ones who weren't believers and therefore won't be in heaven? Well, I think you need to recognize first that this really is probably more of an emotional challenge than an intellectual challenge. And so I guess the starting place in responding to this kind of objection is to ask questions and then to listen. And so you might want to just start with asking, well, why? Why is it the case you would reject Christianity because your loved ones have rejected Christianity? And then start to explore that a little bit more with them. And often I think what will happen is, there'll be some intense emotions there. There might be some anger or rage against God. And of course, dealing with the emotional consequences of not seeing a loved one for the rest of eternity is a tough thing. And so I think we need to patiently listen to our friends and their emotional anguish over this issue and patiently walk with them. And this might be an issue that takes quite a while to get through, okay? So I think the first response is really kind of recognizing this typically as an emotional challenge and then trying to walk through it with a lot of love and patience and listening. But then when it comes to the intellectual side of this, I guess the question might be is why reject Christianity because others have rejected it and haven't received and won't receive eternal life? I mean, I was trying to think of a parallel situation. Let's say a patient has a disease, the doctor offers them the cure, and they reject the cure. Well, if you come along and have the disease as well and say, well, because my loved ones rejected the cure, I'm going to go ahead and reject the cure as well, that doesn't seem to be a very rational position, right? In the same way, if sin is the disease and Jesus is the cure, it doesn't seem to be a good rationale to reject the cure because your loved ones have rejected the cure, no matter what the consequences are in eternity. That is not enough to reject the cure, to reject Jesus. Now, someone might say, well, that means that I'm not going to be with them for the rest of eternity. That's why I'm going to reject Christianity. Then we need to think carefully about the nature of the afterlife. And so if there is a place called heaven and a place called hell, then we need to think carefully through what those things are like. And it almost seems that kind of the assumption here is that this person, if they reject Christ, then they get to be with their loved ones. It seems to assume that there's going to be some kind of reunion with their loved ones. But we need to understand the nature of hell and what hell is really like and the reality of hell. And hell is a place of anguish and torment. Hell is a place where you are separated from all of God's love and goodness. Hell is a horrible choice. It's not going to be a happy reunion for anyone, even with your loved ones. And so that may be kind of an assumption that's here in the background that we need to expose. The choice you're making isn't a reunion with your loved ones. No, it's conscious torment away from all that is good and loving. So it's not a reunion. And so we need to think through what is the nature of hell. And so I think these are things to kind of help this person walk through if this is an objection they have to Christianity. And this might help them begin to make more progress towards identifying Christ as not only true, but also good, and that there's this beautiful vision of heaven, even without our loved ones, that is available to us. In fact, the essence of heaven is God himself. And so it's not our families that are the most important thing to be reunited with. In fact, maybe part of the problem is that we've turned family into an idol, but that God himself is the thing that will ultimately satisfy our souls for all eternity.